Hey everyone, welcome back to another podcast of the RepPath Leadership Series. And today we have a special guest that I'm really excited for. And I know sometimes I say that, and but this I really mean it this time, guys. This is a longtime friend of mine, and he used to be my manager when I was at Boston Scientific. So I'm excited to get his feedback and have him on the show. Before I introduce him, though, as always, guys, some quick housekeeping. Want to let everyone know that if you want a copy or see this to see the actual recording today, please make sure that you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, which is Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. Click on the link. It's free. You could subscribe to get this and all the other content that we produce. Also, we're live today on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're also on every podcast platform known to man. And without further ado, though, I'd like to introduce our first guest. This is Jack Kuchak. Jack is a longtime friend of mine, as I said, and the absolute perfect guest for this topic, not only because he has a lifetime of experience as a sales leader in this industry, but he also has years of experiences from all around the spectrum of fantastic to not so great in the startup space. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's basically the pros and cons of startups. I know a lot of you guys out there, you're always reaching out to me about different opportunities and should I go with this startup or that startup? So I thought it'd be great to have an absolute, expert in this space. So I'd like to introduce Jack. Jack, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I much appreciate you and our time that we spent together working together. Awesome.
Thank you, buddy. And if you could give everyone, and I know you've been around a while, so this obviously isn't an interview, but quick snapshot of your background and what you're currently doing, and then we'll dive into the topic.
So I'll make it as brief as I could, which I'm not good because I'm half Paisan too, Joe.
Yeah, we tend to talk a little bit.
I know. So 12 years at Boston Sci, and didn't want to be an area vice president there, so didn't even apply for the job. And then I got in the startup world. I relaunched Mild with Vertos, Axonics, cool experience. Rang the bell at NASDAQ, which was awesome experience. And they just kept going and going and going with startups. And some of them were good and some weren't. And Joe and I obviously will dig into that, what's good and what's not good. And you don't know until you're knee deep in it. So I did a bunch. And right now I start up my own distributorship. And I enjoy doing that. It's fun, but it's hard. And there's, in the beginning, it's tough. And you don't make a ton of money like you do at a big box company like a Medtronic or a Boston Sci.
Well, so what was the motivation factor, Jack? I mean, here you are, you're at Boston Scientific, you're doing really well. You're a leader within the company for years, always having success year after year. What was that motivation to take a pretty, if you want to call it a safe, great gig, and then dive into the startup world?
I think a little bit of it was that, truth be told, I didn't like how my boss walked out the door, and I didn't want to sit in his table. And when Vertos wanted to relaunch Mild for lumbar spinal stenosis, and Boston Sci was very good to me. I can't take anything away from them. I talked to Bobby Jenkins and Alan Meacham, and they said, go do it, because we're not sure if we want to buy the company or not. Let us know if it's great or it stinks. Go do it. I said, I want to go do it. And they're like, you're always welcome home.
That's
so
awesome.
That's just got me on my way.
Awesome.
And Joe, if you remember, I didn't join Boston Scientific. I joined Advanced Bionics.
True.
And then it became a Boston Scientific company in small print, like tiny little font. And then we became Boston Scientific by the time you and I met.
Yeah, and just to give the listeners some background, so I joined Boston Scientific around 2008, and they were acquired. They acquired Advanced Bionics. So I technically felt like, even though I wasn't a part of it like you were, because you started at Advanced Bionics, and basically I was still there when I got hired. We had a lot of Advanced Bionics, um, like detail materials, some of the equipment still in the Advanced Bionics name, but we were definitely under the Boston Scientific umbrella. So,
Mm-hmm.
to you, to in fairness, you already were starting in a startup capacity at Advanced Bionics anyway, and then got thrown into the big med device world with Boston Scientific, correct?
That's fair to say, Joe. Yes.
Okay, but you worked for other prior to Boston Scientific. You did work for other big corporations too, correct?
Kind of, sort of. Like I worked for a large wound care company. I was in Baltimore and DC, so I kind of cut my teeth looking at old people's backsides and dirty feet. So I did at Health Point, and then maybe it was always in my blood and I didn't know it, but because I was blessed to have people like you and Lindsay and Eric and Kale and all those people around me that our teams had great success at Boston, then I kind of settled in.
Yeah,
But then you kind of get lazy, Joe, in my opinion, because it's too easy.
yeah. Everything's set up for you. It's a well-oiled machine. Well,
Yep.
what would you say was your biggest surprise when you did, jump back in from the back into the startup world?
If I could tell anybody that's trying to figure it out and wants to do it, Joe, full disclosure, they're all different. My experiences relaunching Mild, Axonics, Curonics, Nalu, they were all very different. There's no structure in the beginning, and it's not their fault. You don't have 13 people in marketing, you have two.
Sure. Right.
So things aren't what, especially I think from a rep perspective, reps want things today, and they're not baked yet. And I think everyone was different. There's no one that was similar, in my opinion. And I've done probably six of them.
Sure.
They're not, none of them, Joe, none of them are the same.
Well,
None.
so and that's a good point too, because what I get from reps, now I've done startups too myself, and one of the things with me, I'm always going to be brutally honest. If someone asks me my opinion and I know something, if something sucks, I'm going to tell you it sucks. But they, getting back to your point, it's hard to know what you're getting into. Is there any tips you have for these reps that say call you up and say, "Hey, Jack, I'm thinking about going to XYZ. What are your thoughts on that?"
I think, based on my experience of it, really look at who the leadership team is. Do you trust them? What do they do in the past? Talk to people that worked for them, and how do they create a culture, and also how do they create a business model, and what level. Like I had one startup company, I won't mention what it was, but there was 8 of us in a room. We called it the snake pit, and we were supposed to have full autonomy on hiring people, and that simply wasn't true. So we didn't really vet it out as much as we should have, I would say. So really look into that
Okay.
and where you're going. And the one thing I always tell people, and Joe, I tell you this all the time when I talk to you: don't ever work for a brand new manager. For the most part, they're super rep, right? They don't know how to manage. They know how to be a rep, and they will suffocate you. And I think that's important for people to know.
So when you say suffocate, they still want to be the rep and they kind of take over your territory too. Like, this is how I would do it, and just take the reins.
Or like hold my beer, I got it type of guy or gal.
Right.
It's just, I never ever, and I've guided a lot of guys and gals through the, like you do. I'm like, new manager, no thanks, don't do it.
Right. Right. Okay. That's
Because
definitely
because Joe, you remember when I was a kid, I was the same way. I know how I was. So I'm not accusing them of something I didn't do.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, again, in all fairness, because I came on when you were going into that transition. I mean, Jay was probably on for a couple of months, and then you became the manager. So you, I personally, I'm not being nice to you just because we're here. You did. I thought you did a good job with, when we were in cases of not being that super rep. But it's hard for you, in that position, and for anyone else. In all fairness, they just came from that role and they're seeing someone green that they're like, holy shit, man, this guy's, let me jump in here and just take over.
Well, Joe, it's funny how you frame that up, because Jay Martin is the greatest mentor I've ever had, and he taught me a lot about leadership and not about being super rep. So I had a blessing, we'll say,
Right.
from Jay.
That's great.
Because he taught me, and he taught me how to interview. We did this goofy thing called pistol, which actually to this day I still do if I was interviewing people, but I'm not. And it made a lot of sense. We pistoled you. We pistoled Evan.
Can you walk everyone through that? Give it like a
Present,
quick overview.
presence, intelligent, sales, thought, process, and leadership skills.
Okay.
So Jay and I would flip the resume over when you would leave, or Evan or Lindsay or whoever, and I'd write down, we'd pistol you. We'd put the pistol down, and he'd say, all right, let's compare notes.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to be a leader before I was a leader, and that was very, very, very helpful to me. So, because I have friends of mine, really close friends, that are in leadership roles at big companies that were super rep for like 7 years. Maybe I was for like 7 minutes, but it was because of my mentor. I hooked my wagon to the right train, and it was Jay.
And that's a huge piece of advice for a lot of these young reps on the call, because we always talk about trying to find mentors, and you don't have to. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to get off subject because we'll come back to this, but when it comes to mentors, it's not something that you're searching, in my opinion. And tell me if I'm wrong. You gravitate towards the people that you respect and you see that are doing things right, and they just eventually become a mentor. You're not tapping them on the shoulder saying, "Hey, would you be my mentor?" I mean, that's ridiculous. So is that kind of how that came into path with you? Is just working with someone you respected and then started to gain more knowledge from?
Yes. To answer, what happened was, I think I had a lot of success as a rep at Boston High, and Jay came out to work with me, and I'm like, what's he gonna do to help me today?
Right.
And I'm in Pennsylvania, right? We all know I'm where I live, in Scranton. And he was so knowledgeable and smart, and I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't my mentor. He made me like he took me in, Joe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like, well, this is my guy. This is my
Right.
replacement.
Right.
Like I had with Evan and I had it with Kale. That was all somewhat not DNA. It was more of, I learned it from Jay. I give him all the credit in the world.
That's great. Awesome. Well, and to jump back into the startup talk, what were some of the big challenges that surprised you when you started back into that space?
I think when you're at a Medtronic or a Boston Size, you and I were at together, everything's, it's all baked, right? It's all structure.
Yeah.
It's not that way and everyone's different, Joe. I swear to you, it is. Not one of them is the same.
Sure.
They're not. They're not even half cooked, half of them, and it's sloppy. Marketing's not what you want. You don't have the I had a company where we were told, Messick confirmed this, Mike, that we had all this inventory, blah, blah. We did, but we didn't have the right inventory. So my guys and gals couldn't get what they needed to do a trial for this certain company, but some people were getting it. You just have to learn to be patient. It's not organized chaos. It's just chaos.
Right.
And then at some of the peripheral nerve stim companies, Joe, we have people with like sewing Singer machines, sewing stuff to make a sports bra for
Excuse me.
80-year-old fat sweaty guy that lives in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like you have to make lemonade with lemons, and it's not always easy. They're all a little bit different, and
Sure.
they're all complicated. But chaos is where greatness comes from.
Right. Absolutely.
And seeing these reps that were on my teams achieve what they achieved, there's great money in startups, right? That's not a mystery to anybody.
Sure.
But there's also great chaos.
Now, how do you handle the chaos, like the uncertainty? When, for instance, we know what a large company, unless there's something that's screwed up going on in accounting, you're going to get your paycheck every 2 weeks, right? Your paycheck doesn't come in. The bonus that they promise you is nowhere near what they said. Like all that uncertainty, how do you handle that to keep moving forward?
I believe that what happens multiple times is the reps called me or my colleague and said, what the hell? And I'm like, all right, then it was like putting out 28 fires a day.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get out of your own way because it was always a problem. And you knew people were going to work, getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, going to do cases and doing all that. Startups are complicated. In my humble opinion, I have a 7-year-old daughter. I would never want her to start out her life in a startup. I would want her to work for a big box company. This is what she wants to. I hope she's a CPA like my wife and not like me and you for a lot of reasons. But I would never say, Claire, go to a startup. You have to get the structure to understand what great looks like and then deal with chaos.
Right.
Because you can't deal with the chaos. And at Axonics, and it was complicated in the beginning when we first launched.
Well,
And my reps are pissing and moaning, Joe, and it wasn't good.
Now, did you when you're navigating that chaos though, and I know every company's different, but for the most part, in the startup leadership role, would they take your advice to say, "Hey guys, right now, like we got to change this because this shit isn't working, or we got to change this path because this could help," or is it just, "Hey, this is the way it is, guys, and you're gonna have to suck it up until we get more funding or whatever, and just shut up and go out there"?
Well, that's complicated, Joe, because they're like I said, they're all different,
Right.
and they're all different. So yes, there were situations where it was just shut up and do it, and there were situations like you know how Meech is, right?
Right.
Alan would be like, "All right, Cooch, what do we have to do to like pivot?" But that wasn't always the case. Jason Smith, when I worked with Jason, he would say, "All right, what do we got to do?" But it wasn't always the case with the startups. Sometimes it's just shut up and go to work. I mean, I would get yelled at because my rep got a case on Thursday and got a case, but it's Tuesday, and someone had overnight equipment because we didn't have Trump stock at this one startup company. So yeah, it's all different. That's what I think. That's why I think the youthful kids go get the structure of a Boston or a Medtronic or an Abbott. I really believe that to be true. That's
Yeah.
our foundation, Joe, yours and mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's things you use every day. I mean, one of the things that stands out to me was with Boston Scientific with their training, especially in the OR for the first time. And I still use it in different scenarios today where, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to train you, then we're going to test you, and then we're going to test you under pressure. And
Yes.
that was the one thing. I mean, I remember my first OR exam or whatever. I mean, the stuff that they were doing to trip you up, taking the batteries out of your computer,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again. But no, seriously, but a lot of that stuff though, as much as you're stressed out and you're freaking out during the training, it makes you so much better because you're teaching you the real world in the OR, which was a lot of crazy stuff happens and you got to be prepared for it. And that's what it taught me. So again, that's just something that it's in my mind, for years about how they approach the training, which I loved.
I actually think, and I can't speak to Abbott or Medtronic, emerging leadership training at Boston, initial sales training, our training was spot on. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. Now, were you a bunch of buttheads trying to jack with you guys for shits and giggles? Yeah, we were. We were.
Yeah. Yeah. But it could still have fun doing it, but get whatever you're trying to teach across. And I felt like that's what happened there. But I saw people laughing. You knew that they were doing stuff that you can't think of. Like, cause you would try to think how they're going to trip me up tomorrow. And they always did something that you're like, oh man, I never thought of that. But it taught you to be calm, especially in the OR. We know this. Like, it doesn't matter how scared, how nervous you're saying to yourself, why the hell isn't this stimulator turning on, or what's going on? Why isn't the screen working? But that happens in real life. So if the whole point was to remain calm, and that's what it taught you.
I believe that to be completely true, Joe. If I told you how many times I used to duke the valet guys at Geisinger out in the middle of Nowhereville, so my car was up there in case I needed more inventory. And I used to say to the doc, I'd be like, anesthesia's jacking with my computer. And I'm like, the computer just went to kaputs. And I go grab my backup computer. Like, there was so much shit you had to learn how to cover up
Yeah.
because you had composure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think training did that for us. And the greatest training I ever went to was emerging leadership training at Boston Sci. Meacham did an unbelievable job with that.
Right. And what would you tell these younger not the young reps that we're talking about, that they should, like, I got that message and I agree 100%, to jump right into a startup without that foundation. That's that's a tough ask. But the ones that say have the experience and now they're looking to go into a startup for the first time and they got 10, 12 years in experience behind them, what would you say, just starting with this selling environment? How does that change when you're going from big device to, or big pharma into startup?
Well, Joe, I think you have to realize the company has the potential candidate. They don't have any credibility with the company. They might have a relationship, but sometimes relationships could be your biggest enemy. So
Explain. Can you elaborate with that, Jack?
sometimes it's harder to sell to your friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could sell a Chevy Tahoe to somebody, a caller listening. It'd be harder to sell it to you or Evan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I can't push the needle.
Yes.
So just because you're like a Purdue pharma rep selling oxy to a pain doctor doesn't mean you're going to get stim.
Yes.
And if they don't know what your stimulator is, and there's so many options out there now, like what I do now with the SI joint fusions, there's a ton of options. And I guess the good thing is for me, my relationships aren't deep seated because I've been a manager for the last 20 years. They're surface, so I can penetrate now
Yes.
without having to count on that. So just be careful. And I do think going to a Medtronic or an Abbott or a Boston or J&J, whatever, they have training and instruction. And I know sometimes it's a pain in the rear end and you don't want to go to it and do it. but it builds the infrastructure of who you're going to be.
Yeah, and when you and what kind of training are you talking about? I'm sorry, I just maybe I
I
missed
just
it.
think when you go to a startup, sometimes there's no training or it's
Right,
a
just go out
joke.
there and figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. And that you and I were at Boston way back when, I had leadership training, continuously development, all that stuff. I know you did too. I know Evan did, Kale did, Heber did, everybody did. It was all there for you. And I think as you're developing as a young professional in this space, that stuff means something. Maybe
Yeah.
it does, maybe it doesn't, but in my opinion, it means something.
And what about the credibility, Cooch? Like when we're coming from Boston Scientific, everyone knew Boston Scientific, obviously, right? Maybe I got a
Not
few
back in
people.
the day when
Well,
you
I
and I
did.
were kids.
In fairness, I would get guys that would say, "Oh, you guys are doing STEM now. I didn't know you were doing STEM." But say for
They
the
thought we were a stent company, Joe.
right, right, yes. But what about that credibility gap when it's you're going to a startup and you're going against all these big monsters and you got the doctors starting, wait, who the hell are you? What's the name of the company? How do you overcome that gap?
It's this is a John Wolford-ism. Persistent patience. Be patient. Earn the right to ask for the business. When you're not the big dog on the block, earn the right to ask for the business. Be patient, bring the lunches in, stop by. What do you need? The patient ed. I'm doing it right now with Cornerlock. I'm not pushing the envelope because I haven't earned the right with a lot of these places. I'm doing in services tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. I have a lunch. Friday, I have two surgeries, two fusions. Patience, persistence. It's like a balancing act, I would say.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think if you could do that, and I know younger folks aren't as patient as I am because I'm 49 and I have a 7-year-old, which I'm way too old to have a 7-year-old, but here we are. And I think it's patience but persistence. It's a tap dance, it's a
yeah,
waltz, it's not a street fight.
yeah. So, and this is a great point too. Just to educate a lot of these guys coming in, again, whether experienced or not, but going into that office for the first time, going to see Dr. Jones the first time, he has no idea who you are. You have no idea based on some, a little call notes and some info anecdotally from reps, but you never met. How do you approach those first calls? Where what is the approach? Is it more of a fact finding mission? Because I like how you said to earn the right, because I try to coach a lot of guys. Don't come in there like gangbusters sales rep trying to get the deal that day. That shit's not going to work. So I
Right.
just want to get your opinion on that. Like that first call, that first meeting. How do you approach that?
I think it's more patience than persistence on that, Joe. Great question, by the way. I think it's not fact finding, just making people comfortable with who you are.
Sure.
Go in there. What can I do to help your clinic and your patients out? What can I do to help you? This is what we provide. Well, we're not talking about that today, Dr. Smith or Jones or whoever. We're not talking about that. We're just going to talk about what could I do today to help your clinic and your patients.
Love it.
And just be very patient with it because it's not going to happen tomorrow. I don't give a shit what you're selling. You're not getting 10 cases tomorrow. Not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that are naive, they think that, especially when they see you have a successful territory, oh, he's got it because he's got the Boston Scientific name or the great product and all.
That's garbage, Joe. You
Yes,
know that.
of course. Of
Every
course.
territory, every territory thinks their territory is different. And someone that is managed from Boston to South Carolina, they're all the same. They just have different challenges.
Now, how do you, being a manager for years, and now that you're you're wearing a million different hats. But if you were to go back and you're in that, rep role, working with an actual sales leader that you're reporting to, who your advice now is be patient, persistent, but patience. How do you navigate that space when you got the manager and company telling you, "Hey, Jack, we need shit to happen last week," where they're pushing the company agenda that they got to hit the number, do all this, and you're walking into a new space where if you take that approach, we know that that's going to be overbearing with the doctor. How do you just address that with your manager? I guess to start.
I think it's very difficult to address, Joe, to be completely frank. I think it depends on the leadership team. And sometimes it depends, are you publicly traded? Are you venture capitalist? Do you have a couple guys that own the company? Where's the pressure point coming from?
Right.
So as a manager, I would try to hide that from you guys, you, Evan, Kale, Lindsay, everybody. But sometimes you can't because the foot's on my throat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's a really complicated question. It's hard because there are expectations, but I think if senior leadership understands that it takes time, you want to win a Super Bowl. You don't want to just win Sunday. And I think that sometimes that gets lost.
Yeah.
You have to win Sunday to win the Super Bowl. I understand that. But there's a long game here, too. And you and I both know, especially interventional pain doctors and neurosurgeons and orthospine, they don't really want to be pushed. And if you're being a butthead and pushing them too hard, well, guess what? Abbott's here, Nevro's here, Salute is here. They don't need your crap or you being pushy. I mean, when you and I were back in the day, it was Abbott. Well, back then it was St. Jude, I believe. Might have been A&S. Medtronic and us. Not all these other ancillary companies.
Yeah. Never wasn't even around when I was there.
Right. So they're like, I'm not putting up with Joe. Jack's nice. He's not busting my stones. He brought Panera bread in this morning. The hell with Joe. So I guess that's why I said to you earlier, don't ever work for a brand new manager. They don't get it yet.
Yeah.
And I do. And I didn't get it 20 years ago. I'm like, oh, you want your kids to go to Scranton Prep or Scranton High School? Go to work. I don't care about the Halloween parade. Now I have a different perspective on that.
Yeah.
Let them do that and do what you could do when you can do it. And just get it done. If you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, we'll have a talk about that. That's all. It's just different. It's the evolution over experience.
Right. Okay. And because I love where we're going here, but I want to take a break, Jack, and give the audience a chance if they have any questions. James, do we have any questions from the audience for Jack?
We got a couple questions.
Beautiful.
We got, is the money better in startup or is that just hype?
I would say more hype than reality because Axonics was a unicorn. So my good friend Dan Hystera would always say when he was running training at Axonics, he's like, you guys are focused on zebras, not ponies. Let's worry about the ponies. That's what we all have. Because the unicorns are once in a long while. So I was very, very fortunate with them and with Vertos. But for the most part, no, the big box companies are where it's at to get you your foundation of who you're going to be as a sales professional. So I would say harder, less development, a lot of chaos. And yes, you could find the unicorn, but most time you're going to be riding a donkey.
Yeah. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like the buddies that we all have that are at the casino all the time, or they're betting every week, and then they tell you about all their winners. They didn't tell you about
They didn't tell you about the dogs. They didn't tell you that they took Buffalo to lose last night when they were 99.1% chance of winning.
Exactly. But don't you feel it's the same thing where they're hearing about the guy that made $1 million in his first year at XYZ startup, but they don't know about the 50 guys that probably quit after 3 months because they didn't even get paid.
Joe, I'll tell you the truth. Besides Axonics, which was very good to me, and I appreciate the leadership team there and my colleagues and the reps that worked on my team, the rest of the startups didn't really start up.
Yeah.
They were dogs.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So I'm like, well, Boston, because of AB got bought by Boston. But if I really reflect on it, most are dogs, not unicorns. That was the only unicorn I think I really hit.
Okay. Yeah, that's honest and fair. James, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not. You're
Sorry,
not
Jay.
interrupting at all. Keep going, Joe. It's your show. We have do startups pay for training, car allowance, etc., or is that all on you?
It depends on the startup. Okay, so to answer the question frankly, training's not usually, it's not Medtronic training. Okay, we'll put it that way. But it's also, the car allowance doesn't exist. You might get them to pay for your gas. Some of it depends, James, on if you're venture capitalist owned or slightly publicly traded company. So it depends. But yeah, all the fixins aren't there. That's why I think the youth should go get good training, good sales training, or etiquette. Joe, you and I didn't know the difference between a circulator or tech, right?
No clue.
No clue.
No clue.
The big box companies teach you that. The fixins aren't there at the startup companies. They're just not. Axonics was good to us. I'll take that back. And Curonics was extremely good to me. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Hojo. Howard negotiated that contract and didn't take the job, Joe. That was a good one. But yes, the fixins aren't there.
No. Oh, wait, we lost you for a sec. There you go. Now, would you just one question that's off the top of my head from that comment? Would you advise reps then if you're looking for this unicorn where you have a startup company, but that's going to give you your car allowance and all that other stuff? Don't even bother. I mean, because you gotta, if you're going into that space, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. Shouldn't you just say, if you get the car allowance, you get the benefits, that's great. But that shouldn't be where your eyes are if you're looking for a startup, correct? Shouldn't it be more of like understanding that this is what comes with it, man? Like some's going to come out of pocket, but I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah, Joe, that's a great question. Yes. I think if you're looking for that comfort zone, the whoopee, so to speak,
Yeah.
like when Meacham left Boston High, I said, "Oh, you left your little blue blankie behind." If you want those things and they're important to you, and they are important, especially as you're young and you're building a family or doing whatever, buying your first house, whether it's just you or you and two kids and your wife, whatever, or husband. Yeah, that stuff's important, but it's not going to happen at the startup. And if you're looking for that, the environment's not for you, in my opinion. It's just not. It's not even organized chaos, Joe. It's just chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Okay.
We got Jack. How do you know if a startup is legit or a dumpster fire with funding?
It depends on very good question, whoever that was. I think it's a dumpster fire depending on what round they're on. So if they're on round B and C, you're like, Okay. D, okay, we're getting dangerous. F, okay, failed. Get out, run up the hill. If they do round F of funding, no bueno, not good, not good at all, not good. Go, run.
Right. They're not making a comeback at that point.
No, and everything's so. Even if they give the young man or woman a ton of stock, it's so liquidated down to nothing. It's not worth anything.
Yeah.
I had one company that gave me 300,000 shares. It wasn't worth poop.
Right.
At the time, it felt sexy. But the only thing I will say for the younger generation, or even Joe's age and to my age, if you build up your credibility at a Medtronic or an Abbott or a Boston or a J&J or whatever, I always use them because those were Joe's and my competitor. You get a reputation where people will seek you out. And what I would tell young people, and James, I mean this to be true, your network is your strongest asset. I have more crystal in my office of President's Clubs. I won 5 and 7 years, rep of the year, man, all that crap. It doesn't matter. My network is what matters. That's what gets me to survive.
Right.
This industry.
Yeah. 100%.
We got are equity offers in startup ever actually worth anything?
Well, yes and no. I mean, Axonics obviously was a home run. I probably made almost $1 million there. Vertos didn't buy them. Curonics, no. Nalu, no. Boston, but here's what I would tell that person if they're a younger person at Boston Side. Joe, remember GSOP?
Yeah.
I loaded that up every year. I made just as much money off of that than anything.
Wow.
All day, every day. The big box company, in my opinion, and my daughter's too young for her to comprehend this, the structure and the benefits of the 401k match and all that shit when you're young is so very vital. The startups, they can give you a bazillion shares. A bazillion worth of nothing is still nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that way. And I had friends of mine, colleagues, that bought out their shares when we left some of these companies that I had a couple companies that, Joe, I wouldn't put it in you. I swear to God.
Well, and you again, you get my wheels spinning with each of these answers. So for the reps that are chasing, now, of course, we're all going to chase money. That's the majority of the candidates' number one
What's our
motivation.
DNA? We
Yeah,
can't help
exactly.
it.
Exactly. But the ones that are chasing titles, now I've seen this, right? I mean, they're going to give you the best title you want at that company. You want to be vice president, you got it, pal. You want to be a regional sales manager. They know, I mean, I know being a part of startups and offering jobs, I know what's going to make them tick. You know, especially certain candidates that have been a rep for 15 years, by giving them that management title. So if you could talk about that for a second, I know your answer, because we've talked about it, but the title chasers out there, just elaborate on that.
I believe this to be true because I do have people that I'm very close with. One of them happens to be my work wife, or was my work wife, and she's always chasing the title. I don't want her to do that. Take the cash and run in the role that you're going to be good at that suits your life. I live in Pennsylvania. I know I have to drive all over it. I get that, okay? I understand that. I don't care if they call me CS crap. I don't care. But I think when you're younger, you want that progression in those titles. And I remember it was actually Axonics. It was Hojo, Messick, and I sitting in the snake pit. And we're like, what are we going to call ourselves? I'm like, I don't know. We're just sales managers. Like, area directors? I'm like, Yeah, fine, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. But people do care about that, and maybe I don't have enough sensitivity to that, Joe. But the youth has to realize, who cares? Who paid for the milk? That's all you give a crap about. Not what your title was to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, well, and look what you're doing now, and I've been in your shoes, currently and in previous roles. We used to have a home healthcare company that it's the more responsibility you have, you actually don't care about your title because you're doing work that is beneath a lot of those reps that say, I would never do. You don't care. You will get the job done, covering the case, delivering the tray, doing the shit that seems entry level, whatever. It doesn't matter. You don't care what your title is. You don't care what the job is. It's about getting it done because you're here to actually build something.
Yes, and I'm very proud and I'm very thankful for Joe Stockman. I don't know if you know Joe. He's out of
What?
Philly. He does some stuff in South Jersey. He had all the contracts for my distribution company. Very, very helpful. You could call him the janitor. He doesn't care.
Right.
He's been doing it for 15 years, and it's very insightful. And I would never advise a young person to do distributorship. You need to have the chops for it, or your spouse or whoever have money to back your butt up, because it sucks the first year.
Yeah, and just you don't have to tell us obviously numbers, but define sucks. Like, because I think people think they don't realize how minimal. I will openly say I only made a couple $1,000s when I launched RepPath my first year.
I'm
It was
sure you did.
literally, if I didn't have money saved, no, I don't care what you could live in your parents' basement and be 21 years old. A couple $1,000s still isn't going to get you through your expenses through the year as a young person. Never mind a grown up with a family. So if you could just sucks means sucks.
Well, I'll be completely transparent. When I went to Curonics, I had a 1 year contract for $450,000. I'd have to do 350 surgeries, fusions, to get even close to there, depending on my ASP. So there's the perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, for a lot of you out there that haven't done a case before, I don't think you need to work out the math. Doing a case every day, that's including weekends, is extremely, extremely difficult for a well-established company. Never mind going out there, starting out where it could probably take. How long did it take you to get your first case, Gooch?
First case is the hardest case, Joe. You know that.
Yep.
It took me months. Now I'm doing 3 or 4 a month, and I'm driving to Buffalo in snowstorms and shit. It ain't pretty,
Right.
but I like doing it because it's like Balboa when he was down on his luck. Like go back to your roots.
Yeah.
When I was repping it, and nobody wanted to do a rechargeable battery and all that nonsense that you dealt with, I dealt with, and I kind of like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be the paisan in me. I don't know.
No, but I mean, I can relate. You're coming from something that you're building from the ground up, and you tell me if I'm wrong. You geek out on those small wins. I mean, getting that first case booked when you're at a big company, it's kind of like, oh shit, I'm so busy next week. Now I can't meet my friends for drinks. I can't go play golf. I'm not going to be able to make it to the gym. Now you're like, oh man, I don't care where it's in, Northern Canada, this case. I don't give a shit what I have to do. I'll be there.
Mhm. Agreed. The small wins are huge when you're building it from nothing. And you probably know when you signed your first client to get a job, you're like, wow, I did it. Like, kind of cool.
Yeah.
Every case I get, I appreciate
Yeah.
more and more and more and more and more. Every one. And remember when we did the Monday morning call, like 6 o'clock in the morning, because I was an a-hole manager? And I'd go around the room and be like, Robert, how many? 26 and 14. Joe, what do you have? 4-2. Like that's humbling.
Yeah.
But you worked your tail off for those 4-2.
Right. Right.
Not
And it
that
also,
Robert didn't, you know what I mean? But
but it did motivate you because you saw where you were, and then you're looking at the individual that you're like, no, this is a real guy that's in the room that's doing these numbers. I know that motivated me to try to get better and better because I'm like, if he can do it, this isn't some wise tale. It can be done, but you also realize, wow, shit, I'm not even close. So I got a lot of work to do to get to that level.
and I think in the startup world, Joe, in my opinion, it's so much harder than the structure. Or somebody, so say like Sarah's on the call, fictitious girl, but you go to Medtronic, you might inherit a territory in Kentucky. And there's already business there. It's easier to grow business than to start from zero.
Yeah.
Getting out of the blocks is harder than finishing the race, in my experience.
Yeah, that's so true. Sorry, James. I keep hijacking, man.
Sorry,
Joe,
James.
you don't got to apologize. You guys are having a great conversation. Keep it going. Let's see. How does startup experience look on your resume if things don't work out?
I have a good friend, Dan. Very good question. Very, very relevant. If you could explain and not apologize for your path, it's fine. But you have to be confident. And I learned that from Dan and Sarah. Joe, I don't know if he was your trainer or not.
No.
But Dan always says, don't apologize for your journey. So, truth be told, James, I took a year off and helped out some local business owners because we adopted my daughter. And I didn't have a relationship with her the first year. I'd come home and I couldn't even hold her. So I was like, I'm out. Pull the pin. Christy, I traveled the world for the last 20 years. You do you. You're a partner CPA firm. My father-in-law died. We got money there. I sold all my rental properties. And I went on this little journey of these startups. And some of them were crappy. As long as you could confidently and truthfully tell the truth, hey, I kissed a frog on this one. And that's okay. That's allowed. It's not like when I was interviewing Evan and Joey and all that back in the day, oh, they're not loyal. It's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
It's acceptable to fail, even if you didn't fail professionally, but the company did. I don't think it looks bad. I looked at resumes much different 20 years ago than I do today. But it's an interesting point, very well thought out question. That's very good because I think people concern themselves with that. Hey, the 2 PNS companies I went to were dog poop. I wouldn't give it to anybody. James, I don't even know you. I wouldn't put it in you.
Yeah. But that is a great question, James, because a lot of these reps the topic of job hopper coach, which I'm sure it
Back
gets
in the
thrown
day,
around.
yeah.
It's a red flag. You don't want to be a job hopper. And, I love that what Dan was saying, that you should never have to apologize for your journey, which is so true. So you don't have to be, just a lesson for you guys listening. Don't look at it as, oh, wow, this is a red flag. Be proud of it. Now, unless you have something that you're hiding and you don't want to talk about, that's a different story. But to what Jack's saying is, don't be afraid of failure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. It's okay to fail. Be proud of it because it's going to make you who you are in time anyway. All these failures make you who you are. So don't be afraid of that.
Yes, be proud of your journey and just explain it and be confident about it. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not 1999. Like we have to get over all that. No one's going to graduate. Like my dad worked at a steel mill in Scranton, Pennsylvania for whatever, 100 bazillion years. He didn't even get a gold watch at retirement. He just retired and then died. That's life. If you have to do what's best for you and you bounce around a little bit, because some startups, or a couple of these companies that I did go to startups because I trusted in leadership, not knowing the product. And that's shame on me. I'd investigate. They sucked. That's God's honest truth. I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So you got to pull the pin.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. But go ahead, James. I'm sorry, man.
We have Jack, what's been the most chaotic startup moment for you?
Oh God, they were all chaotic. I'll give a couple of high level stuff. Vertos, because it was a T code, and for the young adults out there that are just kind of getting into the industry, a T code is temporary. It's temporary, scary, and they were in a pause for 5 years. So I didn't have a team, so I had to build a team, but yet rep it out. And doctors had to go to court and stuff to get paid from 5 years ago. So that was kind of chaotic. I think the inventory thing at the overactive bladder company was completely a complete frustrating time. We had inventory, we just didn't have the right stuff. For certain people were getting it, and not some people were not getting it. I think the biggest disappointment would have been Puronics, because we thought they changed the product, not to throw them under the bus. And it's the same thing that StimWave was, in that we had a conference call, and one of the young ladies from somewhere else, not the Northeast, was on the call and said, "Nope, everything's the same." I'm like, "Oh shit, how do I diffuse this mess?" So they all have their challenges. They're just different.
Yeah.
Very different. But there's always challenges. Even at Boston Side, Joe, remember, were you there when we tried to integrate Salesforce? And
No.
Conan would be like, just live it. I'm like, it doesn't fit. I'm putting a circle in a square hole. What are we doing here?
Right. Right.
Just live it. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So even the big box companies have their shortcomings, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They all do. But you know what? They've all been good to me, so I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them. But
I got one more question for you. How do commission structures compare between pharma and startups?
Pharma was kind of easy peasy when I sold Lovenox back in 2001. You just you made really good money for back then. But some of the startups, you can get 25, 30%, but your salary's not great.
Yeah.
You might get like 65 grand, but you got to go earn. You might get 30 points, but at a big box company, you're probably going to get what, Joe, 10, 11, 12? Is that still the norm?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's different. Do you want comfort, or do you want to bet on, it's basically betting on yourself or betting on the company? You can go get a job making $110,000 base. Maybe they give you a Chrysler Pacifica or a Ford Tour, whatever the hell. And you don't have to worry. You have a gas card, and life's okay. Or do you want to go kill it? Right? Joe and I know a lot of guys and gals that are killers. They'll say, "I'll take no base in 40 points."
Yeah. And that's I don't know why this camera is moving on me. Sorry, guys.
You look dapper, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about
I
that.
wish my beard was that dark.
Sorry about
Maybe I should go to Target and get Just for Men.
that. I do not diet, just for the record. I've
I
been
don't believe
questioned
you.
many times with that. It's 1 year, it's just all going to go to shit, and it's going to be gray and balding and everything. So I'm just holding out as long as I can. But Jack, I really do. I mean, this has been great, man. I mean, the amount of information that it's what I love about with you, and I've always loved this. And again, I'm not saying this because we're on the call together and we're face to face here. You've always been very real, and I think anyone on this call has definitely felt that. And that's what we want. Because just being nice and just being all sunshine and rainbows, it's the greatest industry ever. You can make a lot of money. You could be that guy that we talked about, our friends that if they're gambling, they're not going to tell us about our losses. They're just going to tell us about the wins. It doesn't do anything for anyone, So to be very honest, you've had a great career. You've done very well, but it wasn't perfect. So these are the things that you would do if you have any last piece of advice about individuals. Hey, Jack, Joe Licata here. I'm looking to go into a startup. What's your quick advice to that person?
Call me. Let's talk about it. And if I helped one person out that was listening, then today was well worth it, because I will always help them. Joe, I care more about you guys more than myself. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's because I'm a middle linebacker and a left guard. But if I help one kid out think about what they're doing or what they're trying to accomplish, I won. And that means the world to me. And I always say that my greatest accomplishment isn't me. It's that picture of all you guys up there in my office.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And what you guys all became. But be careful what you get into until you have the good foundation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there's structure at an Abbott or a Medtronic and all that. And you need that. I don't want these young people to run off and run trades for Stryker. You're just a slave to some spoiled brat. Right. Go to a company that has, you don't have to go to Enterprise or anything. You just go to a company that has good medical device training and teach you how to get comfortable talking to the man or the woman in a lab coat. Go there first and then consider the startup.
Yeah.
Unless you start a life on third base because mommy and daddy had a lot of money, it's you're gonna kiss more frogs than unicorns. I'm telling you. I have. Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and I know all the listeners do. And for any of you guys out there, please, if you want any more information, you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. You could DM me or send me an email at joe@reppath.com. Also, for all the individuals listening that are lobby members, please give the promo code Licata, that's Licata, and that'll get you additional discounts for any training. We have our next class for the RepPath Academy starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern will be our first call for the new class. So please reach out to me about how to become a member there. And again, Jack, I want to thank you. This has been awesome, buddy. It's a pleasure seeing you again.
Pleasure seeing you too. And Joe, tell anybody if they want to talk to me in a deeper, more private environment, call you and give them my number. I'll talk to anybody. I really do care.
I appreciate that, Cooch. I really do. And
Always.
I know the listeners do. And I will, guys. Reach out to me. I'll give you Jack's contact info. I don't want to blast it up on the screen. That's not fair. But for anyone that really does need help, Jack's an awesome guy. I think you guys can all tell from this call, he's sincere and he's there to help everyone out. So again, Jack, thank you. Miss you, buddy. Great seeing you.
Great seeing you as well, Joe.
Let's do this again soon, buddy. Please.
100%. Whatever you need. You know that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, James, too.
Appreciate it, Jack. Thank you.
James, I thank you enough, man. So you're not getting the thanks out of me right now. So
let's go Vikings then.
Yeah, thank you. So he's a little bitter last night, Coach. I know you're a Giants fan and you guys had a rough day, but his Jets lost, in a terrible fashion yesterday, obviously. So
how about the freaking Bills game? That was the most bizarre shit. Everybody went to bed at 11:15 and they woke up and like, what?
I stayed up for it. It was one of the best games.
Oh, you did stay up?
I did. I stayed up.
You're
I had
the only
all
guy
fantasy guys
for it. Everybody's like, "Did you go to bed?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was shot. I had
No,
a viewing yesterday and shit. I'm like, I'm done."
it was awesome. Awesome game. So I also had some key players. I had like Henry and Jackson and all
Yep.
that went off. Cook.
The Bills have to do something with the defense, dude. He was slaying them.
Yeah, they looked awful.
Henry. It was like a high school player playing against like grade school kids.
It was. But thank you guys again.
You got it.
And everyone out there, have a
Yeah,
great
we'll do it
week.
again, Joe. It's always fun just catching up and doing this stuff.
Absolutely. We definitely will.
We could do one on doing distributors because I could explain that a little bit more too, so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. But we will set that up. And guys, thank you again for listening. Have a great week. Until we are meeting again, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Good luck to everybody out there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Joe and shoot me a text or call me.
Thank you, Jack. Take
You
care,
got it
guys.
always, bud.
Take care.